All right. Well, it's 5 minutes after the hour. I think we should probably go ahead and get started. We might have some other people trickling in. I don't know, Michelle or Denise, would you be willing to add any notes to the meeting notes that during the meeting while I've done attendance, I think mostly, but if there's any,
Yeah, we can do that. We can always update attendance after the meeting too with the LFX record.
okay.
Nice thing about using LFX.
I think it's up to date as of this moment, but new people might join in. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen just to, you can follow along in the meeting notes with the link that was given in the meeting. Welcome to our new attendees and to our past and continuing attendees. Where's the share button? There we go. All right. So, new item for new public item. The governance board has been talking about this for a while now, but there is now a job listing where P4.org is looking to hire a full-time position for a P4 ecosystem lead. The job listing is here, and I won't read over it now, but the first sentence is the highlight of the job description. Basically, somebody who does the kinds of things the TST does as an individual, except they're hired full-time to do it. So, but they would probably also spend a lot of time interacting with companies that are working with P4 and promoting, reaching out to companies who don't use it that might want to, and just growing the ecosystem in general. So uh, the go ahead. Question. All right. Sorry, I thought I heard a. Feel free to join in anytime with questions or comments if you have them. But in general, for this job listing, if you're interested in applying, feel free to go ahead. Or if you feel free to forward this listing to anybody, any individuals or groups that you think might have somebody in them interested in such a role. Ideally, the ideal position is they're at least already familiar with P4 already, but that's not a hard requirement, but definitely a fast learner on P4 if they're not already familiar with it. Okay. Any questions or comments about that? All right. Most of the other things are updates that I hear. That's the main new one. But so in we've been talking for a while now about P4 also hiring somebody. This is a part-time position, not a full-time position, to help with things like CI/CD tasks and automation and packaging, software packaging kinds of things for at least the open source P4 tools, primarily on GitHub, published on GitHub. Uh, Various folks that there have been news recently of various volunteers working on things. Examples are Glenn Gibb has been working on enabling CMake support for compiling the behavioral model BMV2 code. It's been using GNU Auto tools since it was created years ago. So he's trying to update that. And then more recently, Alexander Gall, I think, I'm not sure if he's at Intel, but he's got some Nix packaging.
He works for Switch. We're in the same team.
Okay,
It's the Swiss Research Network.
thanks. So I haven't used that myself yet. I haven't tried it out, but it looks very interesting. And uh, whoever we have a candidate in mind for this CI/CD role. They've done some similar uh, work for the Haskell programming language project in the past. And so Fabian and I have interviewed him. Nate Foster and I have both gotten some good references from people he's worked with for the Haskell project. And I think all that's left now, the next step is for the P4, since there's money involved, the P4 governance board must approve all expenditures. And so we will pass on those good recommendations that we've gotten for him and the governance board. My hope is that uh, Michelle will have an updated budget for the governance board and they can vote to approve that will include hiring this person for like roughly a 1 day a week kind of part-time position for a year. And then we would probably invite them to this meeting, or maybe we probably have a separate kickoff meeting specifically for CI/CD tasks if they're hired. And then, but I would expect and hope that they would join in on this meeting and become sort of, updating what they've done the last month or so on those kinds of tasks, so that the TSD can suggest work items. So that's moving along. Any questions about that one? The next one is Google Summer of Code. Since Billy is here, do you mind if you're probably expecting me to call on you. I hope so. I see you turn on your video. You are expecting it. Take it away.
Yeah. So the major update is that we are going to have this kickoff meeting next week, and I would like to thank Nate here for being our introduction speaker, and also Michelle, Denise, and Andy for helping us setting up this meeting. Yes. Yeah, and all the projects I think are going on well as I know them.
So the contributors are already starting some introduction to
Yes,
their tasks.
I am involved in 2 of the projects, and we have all set up the weekly meetings and to make progress on the projects essentially. And I believe David is involved in the remaining 3 projects, and maybe David could give us some updates there.
Yeah, so basically during the how can I say period to get to know the community, they started to work a bit on setting up the environment and things like that. So they just started to implement their project. So yes, this is the update.
Okay, so it sounds like by the time we have the kickoff meeting, they'll already be a little bit familiar with things and be able to.
Yeah, think about that. The period started at June, 1 of June. June 1st of June is the coding period, if I remember well. So
Okay,
this is more or less I mean, it's less than a week they started to code, but they get familiar to the environment. They setting up the GitHub repository and things like that. For example, for the NS3 project, the guy that the student that was is working there, have to do exam, so it's a bit it's going to start a bit late. I mean, next week, but this is more or less the situation. Then I saw that they start also to provide to develop to add the slides in the shared slide set. So
okay. And I've forgotten how many contributors were accepted this year. I know it was said last month, but
5.
you have 5.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, and the 2 of you are participating as mentors in all 5 of them. Wow. And you have other mentors, of course, too, I think, helping. That is I guess if folks are interested in those projects, if they want to keep abreast of what's going on, they should just contact one of you two, I guess, to see if there's any meetings they might be in on.
Also, we have like a channel on Zulip for the GSOC overall. So anyone are welcome to post any questions, or just if they're curious to know more about any of the project. I think that's
Okay.
welcome. Yeah.
That's the P4 Zulip.
Yeah,
website,
people Zulip, and there's a
GSOC
channel just
chat.
called GSOC. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you both for all you've done on this so far, and continue to go ahead.
Sorry, Andy, I have a question for Michelle because I need to understand how can I present the request to go to Google Summer of Code event in Munich at the end of October. Because
let's just add it to the governing board agenda for the next meeting, which I think is in a few
should
minutes.
I send you an email to the TST, let's say, board members? And
I think Michelle is the one who helps us keep track of the budget and might
Yeah,
be the best person
we have a
to
meeting next week, so we can discuss it at our agenda next week and have a decision. Is it okay if we tell you by Thursday what the governing board says? Or Friday of next week?
for me, is not a problem. I mean, the things for me is that if I have to book the flights, I don't want to overpay them. in
Right.
order to save money as soon as I can do it.
Sure.
As soon as I can do it is perfect for me. So for me, no problem.
Great. Yeah, for the governing board, I think late next week should be
Okay.
possible.
I think it's also a little bit up to this group too, because it is like the, who's the P4 representative at GSOC from the technical side of things. So
Yeah.
if y'all are fine with David being that person, and then it's just a matter of like how much the board is going to approve for funding to cover travel costs. That's
I think we had, that's a good point. I think we had already had that conversation, and we had, if I recall, concluded that Davide was the person who was,
okay.
it was he wanted to go and it was close for him. And so, yeah, I think that part of the decision is, from my
Is done.
perspective,
Okay.
behind us. And we just need the board to say, yes, use the funds from Google for that. And perhaps if there's a discrepancy between what Google provides and what the costs are, then the board will work out a plan for that.
Yeah, and I think, David, had you sent me yet kind of your anticipated costs for your flights and
Yeah,
hotel?
something like that, but I can send you something updated because I sent it to you, I think one or 2 months ago, something like
Okay.
that. And then I got also the email from the Google Summer of Code where they explain everything. So I can wrap up everything and send to you all the documentation for your meeting, so you have a fully view of the let's say cost or
Perfect.
what,
That's
what I
exactly what I
needed.
need. And then the
Yeah, yeah.
governing board can review and approve at the board meeting next Thursday. That's perfect. And then I did get, the P4 is onboarded into GSOC's payment, procurement, whatnot system that Billy had forwarded. So we're already plugged in there. So we should be getting that stipend once the program concludes. So
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about the Google Summer of Code? All right. The P4 workshop updates are a little interesting. Last time we were still waiting to hear back. So we had have applied to the Open Compute Project. OCP Global Summit has a yearly meeting in San Jose. I don't know if it's in San Jose every year, but this year it's in San Jose in October. And we were hoping to have a full day workshop as on the same site and co-located with OCP Global Summit. And so we did hear back, and they offered us not a full day, but a half day workshop, which will be Monday, which would be Monday, October 13th, the day zero of so kind of the day before the main 3-day event, October 13th. So we've had some discussion. This is not the ideal answer that we could have gotten. The ideal answer would be a full day workshop, but the half day, it turns out, is pretty difficult to get, and a pretty good offer from them. A lot of groups we know about submitted and didn't get even a half day workshop offered for them. Our goal in applying was to hope to have good interaction with, to have other people who wouldn't normally come to the P4 workshop who are interested in OCP attend, and also to allow, incidentally, people who want to go to the P4 workshop can now attend all the OCP Global Summit if they wish, any or all of it. It'll be the same registration for both. So we talked to we also have a two program committee chairs. Fernando Ramos, we had found out last time, and Christina Moore at Microsoft has agreed to be a chair as well. And they are okay with accepting this. And I don't know, Michelle, are we now officially said, yes, we would like to take this offer,
Yeah.
and let them know?
yeah, I confirmed with Kaylee, the organizer, and they sent over the contract. So I need to get the contract through the whole LF contract process. So we'll get that going, but we do have the confirmed half-day workshop locked in.
Excellent. So it will be shorter than program in previous years, but the program committee, I think, is okay with it, and it's at least possible. We're one of the options we're considering is that we pack that 3.5 hour time slot with nice keynotes and talks. And if there are additional talks that the program committee would like to arrange, we might publish those online as not live events, but recorded events, recorded talks in association around the same time as the workshop. That's up to the program committee to decide, but is at least an option they have on the table. I don't know if there's any other updates there. Any comments, things that I've forgotten to mention?
I think you covered it. I would add just a bit of color. I mean, I think it's pretty exciting to be with OCP. So I think that's the factor that kind of led us to explore this and then to proceed with just the half-day event. The future of P4, there's some directions that are really well represented in the OCP community. And so the big opportunity is a chance to engage with those other communities, be visible. And then in general, OCP has become, I think, one of the big industrial conferences that, is highly technical and important things are announced there. And so just being a part of that community, I think is really good for us. The downside obviously is with just half a day, at least compared to what we have been doing, which is to have a pretty, I mean, we still select, we're selective. We don't accept every submission to the workshop, but we try to accommodate, any presentation or poster that's kind of reasonable. We try to have a forum, and that's been a nice gathering place for the community. So that's a little harder with just half a day. The program chairs, as Andy said, are considering creative ideas for how to still have some kind of meeting. It might be a virtual meeting, might be pre-recorded talks, papers hosted on our website and such. Like, we'd still like to have the breadth of things that the community is working on be represented. And I think if people have ideas, they're at the very early stages of figuring out what that might look like and are probably receptive to different models. But it's it's kind of an experiment, I would say. And we'll assess and see what to do next time. Simon, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to second what you said. And as I said, I went to the OCP regional event last year because I have been following OCP when I was doing cloud stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised how much networking content it had. There was also a half-day workshop on Sonic where I went. It was quite interesting, could maybe be similar. So expect Sonic folks there for sure. And yeah, it's a exciting community and very dynamic and growing. They keep adding more stuff. For example, they start working on floating point representation in OCP because it's important for AI. Everything is AI and so on. So yeah, I think that would be that can be very successful in the sense of what Andy said as goals to get us or get P4 in view of new communities. And I think you can probably fill this quite nicely. And they have good media stuff and everything gets streamed, so it would be nice to also leverage that for to surface more P4 content, community content, if you find a way.
Yeah, and I think the other good news is that, right, Sonic is one of the key sub communities that we were especially interested in engaging with. There's some use of P4 already in parts of Sonic, and that's something that's pretty exciting, and there's different people, working on that. And their workshop is on the 16th, which is at the end of the week. So we're not scheduled against them, and we're really hoping that, the people who are in the intersection and maybe some people who are not yet in the intersection will go to both events, and we'll try to find some tie-ins.
Cool. Good luck.
Let's see, another comment on the OCP Global Summit. We also have been offered a free, no charge to p4.org, a small booth at the OCP Global Summit for all 3 main days of the workshop. So if anyone is interested in participating in sort of a host, being a speaker, or a representative for p4.org at the booth, let Michelle know, or Denise, and I plan to be there at least some of that time. probably in the booth and definitely on the workshop on the 13th. So, and if we will, the program committee is also aware of that. We might, for people that are doing, demos or posters, there's a possibility that might involve being present in the booth as well. There might be an opportunity for that. Yep, there we go, the booth. Okay. Any other questions about the workshop this year? There'll definitely be updates in future TST meetings, including, I think we'll probably send out reminders to folks that are interested in attending the P4 workshop live that registration for OCP Global Summit is a little bit pricier than we've had in workshops in the past, but it will include the entire OCP Global Summit. And so we'll probably send out a reminder when the early bird pricing is coming close to ending. So if you can save a decent chunk of change if you get the early bird price for registration. Okay. P4 Developer Days. I'm gonna give a shout out to David. Has been doing an awesome job at organizing these talks. Quite a few. I think you're up to around 6 or 7, either 3 done and 4 more or so in the pipeline or planned at least.
Yeah, exactly correct. We have 2 talk from Altera in July and August, and then other 2 talks more related on the language, more related on research. And one is from, I think, in September from Cape TH, and the other one is from the PLRG group from Korean University, So
Great.
let's see if we will manage to have other events maybe related to the switch, maybe from Cisco or X sites for the end of the year, because let's say, luckily I managed to have, let's say, kind of set of content. Now we are in the part of FPGA Smart NICs, then we have language, and then we might see if we will be able to have something like compiler or switches.
Great. Thanks for all you've been doing there. That's been
It
awesome.
was a pleasure for me, so I'm happy that we managed to have this set of event.
And hopefully it's okay if I say that if anyone here has any ideas for other
Yeah.
series of talks, it's okay to contact you with their ideas.
Yeah, sure. I'm more than happy to help.
Great. Was there a question there? Okay. Let's see. The other items I have here are mainly things that I've copied from past ones that I actually need to do. The first one, I think Denise is helping me ping the language design work group to create a blog article updating their work. Thanks, Denise. Sorry, I've been so slow at getting progress on that. And then the last one on software licenses is also something that's been kind of on my back burner. I was working on a bit earlier this year, but still waiting to be done. Some things there. Basically just polishing our software licenses in a way that makes it very obvious what the software licenses of all of our files we publish on GitHub. There's a handful of files that need to be GPL version 2, but they're only test files. So that's the main thing that we're watching like a hawk to make sure that doesn't spread too far. Most of it is Apache 2 to make it friendly for folks that want to build proprietary binaries for the P4 compiler especially, but other things as well. So no updates on that at this time, but I'll probably get back to proceeding on that later this year. I don't think so. I guess I forgot to mention at the beginning. If anybody has any items that they don't see on the agenda, anything they like to add, now is a great time to suggest them. I forgot to remind folks at the beginning that that's okay. Let's see. I guess I will say that I think to our new members, I think I've already mentioned the technical steering team meetings we've been having tend not to have a lot of deep technical content. Those tend to be focused in, we have work group meetings of various work groups, one focused on language, one focused on architecture, one focused on the API working group, and one on education, that have regular monthly meetings and look at the p4.org website working groups link for a calendar of all future public meetings. That includes the TST meeting is in there. All of those other work group meetings are on there, and all of the developer days meetings that David has been organizing are also published on there. In general, if p4org is hosting a public meeting, which they all are, they're all on that calendar. So it's a great place to check for them. Let me think. Anything you wanted to add, Michelle or Denise? I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anything.
I don't have anything else. That sounds good.
Same. I think it's focus now is getting ready for the P4 workshop. So keep an eye out for the CFP to open, or however we choose to move forward with the program. Keep an eye out for that, and please spread the word about the ecosystem lead. It would be great to get somebody in that position soon. So appreciate all the support from the community.
Yeah,
I
also,
could add.
thanks for letting us listen in. I found it interesting to get a feel on the community, so thanks.
Great.
Glad you could meet. You were going to add something?
Yeah, I could just add, this is not so specifically P4 related, but I think there's a connection. There's a group of us, all academics, who have now committed to starting a new conference. And essentially we're interested in creating a conference that really explores new ideas in networking. We feel like some of the established conferences have become sort of quite conservative in the set of topics that they are investigating and the ways that they evaluate work. So the group of people includes me, Orjit Pando, who you may know. He worked with Fabian as part of his PhD, and then Scott Schenker, who's at Berkeley, Hari Balakrishnan at MIT, Katerina Agaraki at EPFL, and Gianni Antinci, who's at Milano. And we have not yet put out our call for papers. We're going to do a first meeting next February, date still TBD, and we'll have a call for submissions in August. So the P4 connection is, I mean, first of all, we don't at all intend to, usurp the P4 workshop. That's of course an event that has its own purpose and, reason for being there. But it was observed in some of our planning meetings that one of the amazing things that happened generally with SDN and with P4 is that it gave people a way to really explore some new ideas and to have those ideas be backed by some kind of credible prototype that then these more established conferences were willing to accept. And basically the steering committee, like, we love that. So we really want, we want to highlight work and have conversations about what the future of networking is. And we want to get back to more creative and radical thinking. And that's not to say we just want to go off on wild flyers. We're not just looking for wild ideas. We want them to be, good ideas that hopefully will stand the test of time. But many of the things the P4 community has been working on, I think, are the kinds of things, that we're thinking of. So I hope people will consider submitting when the call comes out. Our plan is to release the call in the next 2 weeks. That deadline may slip a little bit because we don't have everything quite together yet, but the deadline will be end of August and then conference in February. So, and we're still arguing what the name of it is, but if you're on the SIGCOMM Slack, you might have seen a couple announcements from us. Anyways, people should submit.
Sounds interesting. Feel free to bring it up again.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't send a note now because we're still like, actually my meeting this morning was committing to the timeline and all systems ahead. As soon as there's some collateral, I'll forward it to the P4 channels.
Yep, like a CFP, for example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep, great. All right, my first idea to submit radical idea is transport protocols that just blast the receiver as fast as possible and ignore any network congestion and just, be greedy. No, sorry, I've seen that idea before, but it's not an idea that will take off well. A radical idea that will get me the hate of most people on the internet. All right. Any other topics folks would like to raise?
I guess I have one that I just wanted to, I guess I would, feels a little weird because now we're a public meeting, but I wanted to maybe just chat with you, Andy. I was out in the Bay Area recently and chatting to some people about P4, and I won't name names, but you know, P4 on Nix continues to be a thing, and yet the language, to my knowledge, it has not evolved to really accommodate, the capabilities of various kinds of Nix. And I'll just kind of shake my fist. Like, it would be really great to have some of the proprietary extensions that have been developed, if not standardized, at least socialized, if those companies are willing to do that, for a variety of reasons. I mean, I'd love to see these things, of course, get into open source. Even if, I think of course, it's always dangerous to sort of fork a community, but as we learned through the PNA exercise, it may be just very difficult to get sort of standardization, in for the rich and diverse kinds of processing you do on Nix. It seems harder than for feed forward switch pipelines that with restricted memory and so on, like P4 seem to do there. So I would even be, I don't know, I feel like there's a moment which may be passing us by, and like we're no longer early in the game, we're late in the game, and companies have extended P4 in various ways to handle more of the processing that happens on Nix, and it would just be really great to see those get out into the open source tools in some form. And even if it's not standardized, sorry, I'm like rambling in what I say. Even if it doesn't come, like we agree on the new primitives that we add to support other kinds of transport and so on. Even if it's like, well, there's this way of doing things and this way of doing things and this way of doing things. I feel for me the language needs to evolve potentially in some radical ways, and I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see actual movement on language extensions, changes to the reference compiler and simulators.
So
Sorry, one last sentence. I'll also say there seems to be an appetite from at least the users. So I was talking to people who were users of these devices. I understand that to get vendors on board requires finding the right incentives and so on. Vendors don't tend to do open source out of the goodness of their hearts. I mean, sometimes they may, but there has to be a competitive or commercial reason for them to do this, and that incentive can be provided in various ways. But for us, just putting on my P4 language hat, I think this is really, really essential, actually. Like, I think, for the language to have the future that I believe it can, this, getting beyond the current relatively stable version of the language, which is a very useful language for some things, is really essential. So I mostly wanted to just agitate for that again, and I know we've already had some conversations with some of these vendors, and maybe it's time to do another round of those conversations. And pulling in some of their customers also is sort of the obvious first point of leverage to say your customers want this, and the open source community is here willing to support this. But
I should probably I'll talk to you offline or send you an email. That at the last architecture work group meeting, I kind of said, P4.org's goal isn't to isn't necessarily to publish or extend the portable NIC architecture specification. It's to promote the use of P4 in the world. And if there are other ways that the architecture work group can do that besides, working on a P&A specification, let me know what your ideas are. And so, and I tossed out a few, which I don't recall right now, but one of them, like you say, I think would be, one form of socializing would be, advocating for, here's something we've done to extend it that we found very useful, describing it in public, even if you don't have open source implementation of it, at least, like you say, socializing it, advertising it. Maybe one of the incentives is, bragging rights. Hey, we've got this. We'll tell you about it. But there might be other forms of socializing it, including incentives for open source implementation. But I think, yeah, I'm open to ideas there. And I think so far, maybe the folks that attend the architecture working group aren't the right ones to hear that message, or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
need to find some other folks through other channels. And you may know of some people that I can contact about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I also recognize that in many ways we're going against the natural order of things, right? Like the trend in the networking industry has never been to try to standardize or open things, because that undermines the vendor's competitive advantages. Like, and you end up in this bizarre situation where the technology is changing and everyone who's kind of in the community kind of knows different, pieces of the picture, but maybe not the whole thing. And it's all kind of, behind NDAs or proprietary things. And like, I mean, again, we're sort of part of the broader SDN movement, which was trying to not have that, right? So, I mean, of course, there can still be ways that vendors differentiate themselves, but not on, the ISA or not on the, like, that there's at least these open software interfaces that that nobody owns. So, anyways, I realize that like this is we're going against the grain, and maybe to some extent this is sort of all these other forces, it reverts naturally to that status quo that I was describing. But we have some evidence that it's been possible to not not be in the status quo in the preceding decades. And I think everyone as individuals who's technical in this community agrees that that's a better place to be in. But maybe everybody's too strong. Many reasonable people believe that opening these things up and letting vendors differentiate themselves in other means is probably better for the community overall. But
and it's entirely possible that one of the incentives for some of the companies might be newer companies coming in, like Excite Labs, that are opening things up, might incentivize others to
of course, yeah.
follow suit.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep.
That might be one thing, but yeah, I'm looking for ideas in this area. So if you have any that please pass them on, or we can talk about later if that
I
helps.
mean, well, one more piece of framing. I mean, what do I was being very vague when I said, P4 on SmartNICs doesn't have everything and these things can do more. I mean, scoping it so that, like, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea. I mean, to like have P4 be the language for SmartNICs, like that feels like a bit too much, given the heterogeneity and also some of the capabilities. But a more incremental, in a way that I don't think is just a cop-out approach, would be P4 is reasonable for the pipeline part of a NIC, whether it's a foundational or a smart NIC. Increasingly, there's a lot of action in transport. And P4, hopefully it's not controversial for me to say, P4 is not a good language for implementing transport protocols. If you were to do it, it would be in very, I think, unholy ways, using externs, using sort of magic, from the architecture. It just, like, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would be like, it would be kind of ass backwards. So to me, that's like, if you had an extension of the current P4, where you could describe the parsing, you could describe the processing that's going to happen in some kind of pipeline, and you could describe some of the processing that we needed to implement transport, which is going to involve interfacing with, memories and what the message processing we've been talking about, and probably some code that runs on things that look more like general purpose cores, or possibly other specialized processors. That would be I mean, that's not everything a SmartNIC can do, but that would be kind of I don't know the percentage, 80%, 90%. Like that would be like where a lot of the action is. And it'd be good for us to be where the action is. And there's interesting interactions between the stuff P4 can do now and the transport stuff that we're missing out on. So that'd be one way to scope it. I feel like the prompt, let's make P4 be the language for SmartNICs, like immediately it's too broad. It's like, well, are we talking about everything a SmartNIC could do? Are we talking about, if it's an FPGA space SmartNIC, like what does that even mean? So I think it needs a little bit of scoping.
Yeah,
I would advocate for
like
take transport and, again, to use the Pensando term, message processing. Those are still big. There's a big technical problem to solve to figure out what those extensions should be. Some of the vendors have already figured it out. But I think that would be if we did that, I would be very thrilled. And I think that would be a pretty big level of success.
And yeah, I think I mean, it is true that the vendors will extend to enable programming of the parts of their systems they want to enable programming for, regardless of what p4.org does. And the main question is, how can we find ways to make them willing to share with others what they're doing in a way that's in their interest too?
Yep.
And that's yeah, still looking for ideas there. Good ideas there. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, we can follow up with some other conversations, but yeah, I think that'd be a good thing for us to prioritize.
I'll just mention a little side note. I am no longer at a company that develops SmartNICs, so my interaction with them is much less than it was a couple of years ago. So I'm more of a outsider from that perspective than I used to be.
Well, that's good because I think you can have
The things I could talk
conversations
more
without being
about.
conflicted. You're not conflicted in the way that you were before. Okay, yeah.
All right. Anything else anybody would like to add in? All right. Looking forward to seeing you next month. Oh, and Fabian just joined. Let's say hi to Fabian at least for a minute and see if he.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Great.
Welcome.
Just arrived at the hotel. So I missed 40 minutes of the meeting.
We were actually just about to we were winding down on updates and some additional discussion, and we were just about to do the going once, going twice, done for the day when we saw you show up. Sorry.
Okay, perfect timing. Well then, I will just read the meeting notes.
Yep, it's mostly. I mean, the meeting notes are mostly updates from past ongoing items, plus the announcement of the job listing for the P4 ecosystem lead. But yeah, the update
Okay.
meeting notes will catch you up quickly, I think.
All right, great.
All right.
That's good.
Thanks, y'all.